Warning, this podcast may contain bad language and content that some listeners will definitely find offensive, especially if you thought that we were going to do this topic last week, but it turns out we didn't because we just rambled on about genies. So, welcome to the real topic. It's gonna fuck you.
Wow. Welcome to Seesaw Podcast
with your hosts T, Cleaves and Selina.
Every week bringing some much needed balance and humour to brighten up what can sometimes be a dark, disabled world.
It was going well.
Yeah, it was, and then it tailed off at the end.
The fuck you part.
Yeah.
Just can't win with you people anymore.
Have you ever? Hello everyone and welcome back to Seesaw, the episode you thought you were getting, like Cleve said, but were now actually doing. There's a reason that we didn't do it last time, and that's because I was shitting my pants about it. We're actually going to do it this time, but before we get onto that, we will touch base, as we always do. Selina, how are other specific non-smoker related things in your life going?
Everything's going fine. I've got to go to work in person tomorrow, actually.
Oh, God forbid. You find T. Oh, no, I've got to go to work in person.
Yeah, my boss is picking me up.
Oh.
But no
T doesn't
excuse.
get that. T has to actually use public transport.
I certainly do, and it's not a pleasant experience. Cleves, what's going on with you?
Not a lot. I'm pretty sure I explained it all in last week's episode. To a T.
Excellent.
Well, and a Selina.
It still doesn't work.
It annoys me. It annoys me that your name has the NA at the end. Otherwise, it would rhyme really nicely. Anyway.
And I am also doing well.
Yeah. But okay, fine. We totally
Let's get to the nitty gritty then.
Yeah, it's just like a plaster. You just got to rip it off.
Yeah, let's go in. Last time we didn't. This time we're doing it.
Yes, we certainly are. So, no quick blind news, nothing like that this time. We're not going to do what we're wearing.
Same as last episode.
Same as last episode.
I put a jacket on. It smells of chicken smoke.
I definitely mean you actually said what we were wearing last time. We just went on the genie tangent.
We actually didn't. White t-shirt with Etni's logo on. Grey jacket, blue jeans.
Black hoodie, navy blue t-shirt, blue jeans, I guess, and a grey Vegas Golden Knights hat.
So, Aladdin pajamas for Selina?
Yeah, obviously I'm still in the same pyjamas and everyone's still thinking about their 3 wishes.
Yep.
You could have just...
Well, considering I had to rush off from needing the bathroom after the last episode, I didn't know if you'd changed.
I expect now, every week, a different Disney film-based pajamas.
I don't know for every week going forward, but with the certainly more in the drawer.
Okay.
You could just lie, let's be fair.
Yeah, that's what I'm hoping. That's what I was just hoping you would lie about.
Okay, we're getting
What happened to
another
Pinocchio when he lied? But anyway, okay. Topic of the week. Go.
Topic of the week.
No, we're not doing that. We're doing... Oh, wait, are we doing topic of the week or we're doing masturbates?
Ooh.
Both great intros.
Let's do masturbates.
I love that intro.
Welcome to Seesaw Masturbates.
Hard topics coming in your ears right now. Okay, so I have to shout out to Lance of See Through Podcast because he was the one that actually put this on my radar for us to chat about. Lance didn't actually cover this in much detail because, as you'll find out very shortly, it is a very controversial topic. But it's something that we need to put on the seesaw, need to balance it out a little bit. So, this week we are going to be talking about the topic of trans-abled/trans-ableism, but mostly trans-abled.
Transylvanianism.
That is the name of the notes.
Hotel Transylvanianism. Featuring Adam Sandler. Sorry, it's a serious topic. I'm sorry.
Yes. So, I hear you ask, what is transabled? Because I had no clue what this was. Transabled is the perception of an individual that they should have been born or now should be disabled. And this is in the situation where they do not have that disability at that time, but they believe that they should have a specific disability.
Right. So you're saying at this point it's perception, not that they were born disabled, but have been born into an abled body.
Yeah, pretty much.
Right. I mean, that raises a lot of questions for other trans-based.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
All right.
So this is known as Body Integrity Identity Disorder, BIID.
BIID.
Yes, BIID. So I'm not sure if this condition, I did try and find out if this is a recognized condition by psychological societies. I'm not sure if it is. The only source I could find was from one of the cases of this. I've got a few to run down just for a bit of context. And it was a psychologist who was analyzing this case. And they basically were saying about this, and the narrator did say that they had coined this as a condition. There might be a lot more that I couldn't find, but I did try and research this and couldn't find anything comprehensive about this condition. So not saying it doesn't exist at all. I'm just saying I couldn't find the paperwork, the studies, everything that went into it to confirm that this is actually a condition. So one of the more notable cases of this was a lady called Jewel Shooping.
Real name or fake name?
There's a real name. On the cases, they are the real names because you can look these up for more context because these are actual cases.
All right.
A lady in America who believed, she wants to be blind. That's what she always felt that she should have been born blind and that's who she was as a person. She consulted with a psychologist, not the same psychologist who is associated with BIDD. No, BIID, that's the one.
Good.
And after consulting this psychologist, they then devised a plan to blind her with drain cleaner. She actually performed the act of dropping drain cleaner into her eyes, but the psychologist was there to make sure it was done safely. So this is a medical professional enabling actively this happening. So before I move on to the next case, what do we think of that? Because this is the other cases don't have medical professionals involved in them. They're just other instances of this. Well, what do we think of this as a situation?
Deep breaths. Why are we doing this topic? It's such a tricky thing because we don't think like these people, obviously. It definitely sounds like a mental health condition, and mental health has a lot to answer for in this case. To hear a medical professional enabling this person, nah. We don't enable people with their eating disorders. Like, we don't, people who have suicidal ideations, we don't then encourage them to fulfill what they believe they should be doing.
Okay, T. If you are born in a particular body and you decide that you are a different gender, you can have a medical procedure done in order to make you feel more like that person. Now, if you feel like you are an abled person born into a body that you think should be disabled, should you not, in the same instance, be able to have a medical procedure done that will disable you? Now, I appreciate that the drain cleaner to the eyes is rudimentary in its effect because it's, you're pouring Mr. Muscle into your eyes, aren't you? But at the same time, if that was a legitimate medical procedure where, for example, they injected something into your eyes that would stop your optical nerve from functioning, would that be acceptable?
that's where it gets very tricky. I think, like you said, because it was such a rudimental way of doing it, and the couple of other cases, which I'll touch on in a minute, do have medical professionals who have flat out denied helping individuals. And this happens like in all the other cases I've seen. But this was very much, like you said, it was a very, very much what have you got in? And in this instance, you can find the interview with this lady. I'll put it in the show notes. And they actually had discussions about what would be the best way to do it, because she didn't want it to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
She didn't want it to do more damage to her other than her eyes. So it was a comprehensive planning with this medical professional on how best to do this.
So I'm going to bring this back to the transgender thing time and time again, because it's the easiest comparison. When that first was a thing, people used to disregard it. And now it's become medically acceptable that gender is a state of mind as opposed to a physical being, if you will. And you can have operations to change how you are. So why would it be different for a disabled person to an able person?
With transgender, and I'm not an expert on this at all, so I'm happy to be corrected on this. There is a significant time period and various tests, psychological, medical, before any procedure will take place. There is also a population of transgender individuals who do not want that procedure. They are trans, and that's their identity, but they do not want to have a medical procedure to do that. They want to be non-binary, and the physicality of their body doesn't matter as much to them as their gender identity does.
Yeah, but should that be the same for people that are trans-abled? Here's the thing. It's in its early infancy, right? Surely when people were transgender, let's say 20, 30 years ago, we're at the same stage now as you were with people that are trans-abled.
I know what you're saying, but when you're talking about that sort of thing, it would be like someone saying that I'm trans-abled blind, but then not taking the medical procedure. And I don't think that professionals should be enabling this at this point. I think there's still more research that needs to be done into this, and we'll get to the other reasons. But it's like them pretending to be blind. I mean, is that socially acceptable for an individual to pretend to be blind?
Is it socially acceptable to be trans?
Well, I think it's a lot more complex of an issue, and I don't have the research to be able to go into that, frankly.
My question is there a difference?
At the moment, the societal perspective on this is that there is. Whether that changes down the line, that's yet to be seen. But at the moment, this is something that is quite a touchy issue.
Fine. What is the difference?
Well, I'll throw another example out there, and this might put a little bit more of an understanding on it. I can't remember the individual, but there was someone who, I don't know if they're famous, but they got quite a lot of notoriety by saying a few things that would be deemed as racist, but then they said they are transracial.
Right.
And the issue with that was they are white, were white, however that was to be phrased. And the criticism of the black community was that even if they want to identify as black, they are not black as far as what the physical side of them is concerned, and their heritage. And a big part of sort of like the plight of black and other minority ethnicities is the persecution that happens because of that. And it was heavily criticized because of that person has no concept of that.
Right,
or
okay.
The heritage of
but
it.
by that logic, right, you could say that the same about people with disabilities. Person that are born fully abled, when they want to be trans-abled, if you like, or want to be disabled, whichever way you look at it, and they want to be that person, have no concept of what it's like to be disabled. But also, if a man wants to become a woman, or a woman wants to become a man, do they really have any kind of concept of what that other gender is like, based on the fact that gender is a physical form as opposed to a mental form?
Well, that's sex, not gender.
Okay, yeah. But but you've defined that by mental rather than physical, right? And that's exactly what you're defining racial as, and also disability as. If you want to define it as a mental state of mind, fine. Is it any different to wanting to be trans or transracial or transabled? What's the difference?
I frankly don't have an answer with my knowledge base. I don't have an answer. I think the real distinction, or the only one that I can think, is that with disability, causing yourself to be disabled, in a lot of cases, there's no going back from that. And there are transgender people who, like I said, will not have any medical procedures. And they might find down the line that it isn't their identity, and they might still be searching for that personal identity. And that's absolutely fine. But if you're going to blind yourself with drain cleaner, there's no going back from that.
The thing is, though, it's two different things, isn't it? It's like saying if you blind yourself with drain cleaner, you become disabled. If you, for example, are a man by form of your genitals, and you have them chopped and inserted to become a woman, and then you want to go back, that is the same, in my eyes, as deciding later on down the line that you don't want to become that person.
There are definitely going to be cases where a gender assignment surgery has been performed, and then there has been an individual who has wanted to go back on that. And that's why there is such a screening process, as well as psychological assessments for that individual, for the impacts of what that procedure entails. At the moment, there is nothing like that structure-wise, policy-wise for the disabled community, and that might, or the transabled individuals out there. And this might be something that will come up down the line. But as we'll get to some of the feedback we've had from Reddit and Facebook and other sources, being disabled, it has such a negative impact in many ways on your life. Whereas debatably with gender, not so much. I'm not saying.
Well, people would argue that women have been facing fucking worse odds than men's for their entire life. Same with race. Black people again would argue that they've been fucked over by white people for their entire life. A lot. Well, I don't know. I'm not black, but you know what I mean. Like, there's that argument to be made.
I agree, but we're talking day-to-day living, simple matters of self-care,
right?
Employment, that sort of thing.
Employment is right there on the cusp.
Absolutely,
women, black people,
but day-to-day living, like, for example, another case here. Chloe Jennings White asked a surgeon to...
Wait, was that Chloe Jennings, White, or Chloe Jennings White?
That's
the double-barreled surname.
Double-barreled surname.
Okay, fair.
Has asked a surgeon to essentially make basically cut their spine because they believe they're paraplegic. So you can't come back. The surgeon has said no. There's no medical professional who is going to allow this up to this point. I mean, I imagine she's still probably looking, but you don't come back from that. And
it's a form of self-harm. I am still here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, sorry, Selina. I have literally been like calling Tia on as much as I possibly can. But no.
Some good questions. Good questions. But essentially, it is self-harm. But at the same time, with gender, transgender, you can't, that comes with risks as well, with people transitioning, the medications they have to take for life, obviously the physical procedures that they have, it all comes with risk. So it's the argument, is it any riskier being transabled than transgender? It's just more of a noticeable risk. I don't think people are necessarily aware of what's involved with transgender completely.
I agree, because I'm not completely, I'm not clued up on it at all.
Is it the case that, like, where men that want to become women, for example, have to live as a woman for X amount of time, right, before they can have surgery done?
Yes.
Can you imagine if someone wanted to live as a paraplegic, for example, and they have to live as a paraplegic for X amount of time?
Well, that's the way it should be.
would that be then deemed acceptable to have actual surgery?
I think yes, but if you're in a wheelchair and you've got to do sort of like 2 years of being in a wheelchair, can we guarantee that person won't have an instance where there'll be stairs and they've really got to get into that place? They'll just be like, got it, I'm just going to do it, because they can still walk at that point. But are they going to
That's Munchausen's. Is that the same thing where you think essentially pretending to be ill? And I actually, a few years ago now, there was a girl I played goalball with, and she claimed to be visually impaired, genuinely thought she was visually impaired, and later found out, a couple of years later, that apparently she was not visually impaired. I had no idea. You would not have known. So it happens.
Absolutely. It really does. One more case is very similar to the previous one. And this is very much on point. A British man, Nick O'Halloran, he believes he is also paraplegic by being a leg amputee. And he pretends to have an amputated leg even though he doesn't. But he will go to lengths to convey that he only has one leg, although he does have two.
Has he just watched Forrest Gump too much?
Well, Forrest Gump had both legs.
No. Lieutenant Dan.
Yeah, but he had no legs.
I was trying to bring a semblance of some sort of fun back to this, but apparently it's not going to be the case.
Absolutely not. I'm afraid of fun with this episode.
Apart from when he gets new legs.
Magic legs.
Magic legs, yes.
So this does go into like the Munchausen syndrome again. This gentleman is pretending to be a leg amputee. I don't know what lengths he goes to for this, but he does do it.
My question is going to come back to the same thing again. At what point do people that are transgender pretend to be transgender?
Well, it's not pretending to them, is it?
Well, it's not pretending to the people that are transabled.
That's true.
So what's the difference? Is there a difference? Should people that want to be transabled be able to be transabled?
Well, that is the discussion we're having. And there is some feedback from the disabled community which we collected, and then we will hear from what the general consensus
The thing is, I wouldn't wish blindness on anybody, even if you think you want to be blind. No. Don't. That's my personal opinion. It's
got to walk around for a year with your eyes closed before you can be blinded.
Yeah. It's difficult to understand.
Mate,
especially when you're in that situation.
Sighted and I wouldn't want to be fully blinded. Do you know what I mean? Like the three of us here are here with 3 different types of partial sightedness, if you like. But I wouldn't wish any of our conditions on anyone.
No. I think that's the thing. But whereas with gender, being a man or being a woman, you don't look at it as necessarily a bad thing, do you? Whereas you do with disability. Then that's another thing though, is should disability be such a negative thing? Should we be proud to be disabled? But genuinely, disability comes with suffering at some sort of level, whether you're comfortable with your disability or not. You can't shy away from that.
Does Trans-Ableism though make disability become a bit of something that you want to aspire to? It shouldn't be, in my personal opinion. However, people do aspire to be that.
Yeah.
Tricky, right?
It is a very tricky one. And again, I don't have an answer for that. At the moment, this is very much seen as a taboo thing to do. But
then
you
so
can say the
trans,
same.
Yeah.
You can say the same about trans. You can say the same about
10, 20 years ago.
Homosexuality.
Exactly.
50 years ago.
Exactly.
So I think this is very much a societal issue.
Are we just seesaw ahead of our time?
Maybe that's it. So potentially this is a normal psychological condition, but there's really not a lot known about it. So it's a bit of both as far as sort of like mental and neurological, but there's not nearly enough evidence or study that's gone into this yet, which I think is also what's causing a lot of issues, because there isn't comprehensive studies yet of this. It's still fairly new and unknown what the causes of this are, if it's just mental health or whether there's a neurological aspect to it as well. So I think this is where it gets a bit tricky.
What's tricky is the fact that you're looking at whether this is neurological condition, but other conditions have already been accepted. And you've got to look at whether one is dissimilar to another.
Well, that's where studies need to be done by specialists a lot more clued up than us.
Well, all I mean is we've already accepted that gender is now a state of mind rather than physical appearance. It's going the way, dare I say, that race is that also that. Could disability not be that as well? Do we know whether that's a mental condition, or do we know whether that's just what's now deemed acceptable by society? You're getting fucked on this, T.
I know.
You're getting fucked on this big time.
You know this isn't an argument between us. This is us discussing.
Oh, mate, it isn't. Yeah. Everything's an argument between me and someone.
I get the feeling that you've come into this taking a side, trying to not...
No. I've taken the devil advocate side. My side is, if you're going to do it for one, you can't argue if you're going to do it for everyone else. So if you're going to be transgender, if you're going to be transracial, why not be trans-ableism? You know what I mean? If you're going to do it for one, why not do it for everything? Because you're basically arguing the same fact.
Okay.
It's where does it end? It's the trans species and trans everything. If you decide, I watched a short TikTok video on this. This was my research, and serious. And the person on there was saying that she knew a guy that put an ad in the paper asking for a nanny because he felt like a baby, and felt that that's what he should be.
Yeah, we're talking about trans-ableism, not trans-bableism.
No, but then there's trans everything. But where does it end?
Well, that's it. I don't have a problem with that. If you're going to say that you're trans something, that's absolutely fine. But don't say it's wrong for certain people when it's not for others.
Okay. So we're going to stop our chat here for now. You can join us next week for the continuation.
Now who's getting us slightly inebriated?
I can assure you, during this wraparound, I have not consumed any alcohols. But if you want to hear more slurry Cleaves, tune in next time, and we will have a further discussion about Trans-Ableism.
And it is also featuring your guys' comments.
Yes.
So that's what we're mainly doing next week, sort of feedback and, the comments from the disability sphere.
So Reddit, Facebook, Twitter, all the places we went to make sure we had every side of this argument or topic. It's not really an argument. It's more of a topic.
Discussion.
Yes.
Yeah. A masturbate.
Masturbate. Yeah, that was the one. That was it.
Yep. With our very juvenile naming conventions.
How dare you?
So, do we have anything to plug before we go?
We have Disability Expo. Always plugging that, baby. Coming up in July. I will be there. Also, we have Diversity Awards. Cast your vote. We need your votes, people. Cast your vote. Maybe tell us that you voted. Maybe we'll give you something nice at Expo. Come along to that too.
We also have the Shaw Trust Awards, which you can't really vote for the Shaw Trust, but you can share us with friends and family, because the more people who know about us, the higher profile we are. And we are very grateful for everyone who's nominated and voted up to this point.
Sweet. Selina, do you want to take us out?
See ya.
Thank you for listening to Seesaw Podcast. Your feedback and comments mean a lot to us, so if you'd like to get in touch, you can do so in the following ways.
You can find us on Twitter at Seesaw Pod, Facebook, Instagram and YouTube at Seesaw Podcast, and you can also join us at seesawpodcast.com.
Remember to like, rate, review and share with a friend.
This podcast was recorded in front of a blind audience.